When will I pick a train from Accra to Lagos?
I'm happy you asked this question while the Minister for Finance is right here. Under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana has done a lot within the industry. We have developed, for instance, what we call the feasibility studies completed for the Trans-ECOWAS line, which runs from Lomé straight to Ivory Coast. And so train from Ghana to Nigeria is possible. We started train from Ghana to Burkina. So why not Nigeria if Dr. Amin it's here and ready to do the wonders.
Africa is on the move to greatness because across the beautiful continent, economies are now growing, cities are expanding, and therefore the need to move people and goods is becoming more and more urgent than ever. But for far too long, countries on the continent have been relying on roads, which has caused congestions, pollution, and high transport costs. And that is why many countries on the continent are now looking to the future by investing heavily in railway projects. In fact, almost every country on the beautiful African continent is working on a railway project, and these new projects are all ambitious ones. Let's take this for example. This is the Mombasa to Nairobi standard gauge railway line in Kenya. This modern line cuts travel time between the capital and the coast in half, which is boosting trade and tourism in the beautiful country Kenya.
As we are going from Mombasa to Nairobi, Nairobi to Naivasha, I think the economy of Kenya is improving bit by bit.
So the ultimate goal of all these railway lines in our individual countries is to connect the African continent via rails. And the question people are asking is that, can Africa achieve this? Well, the Ghanaian minister responsible for railway development, Honorable John Peter Amewu, is here to answer that question.
The literature also says that Africa needs about $130 billion investment in the railway sector in order to facilitate trade in the continent. Is this a task that is achievable from where you sit? I know Ghana, until about 10 years ago, lost most of its railways and was operating on just about 13%. That has improved in recent times. What is happening pan-continent in terms of efforts to meet this target?
Thank you. It is a fact that infrastructure development is a key index to aggressive growth, employment opportunities with its multiplier effect on economies. Africa totally has a land space of about 30 million kilometers squared. Out of that 30 million kilometers squared, we have an average about 90,000 kilometers of railway line, which I think mathematically translates to 3 kilometers for every 1,000 kilometers squared of land surface. If you compare that with the European countries, for say, excuse me, European countries, we're talking about in excess of 100 kilometers for every 1,000 kilometers squared. So this tells you where we are and where we're coming from. And in Ghana, for instance, it translates to about 3.4 kilometers per 1,000 kilometers squared. You cannot, as a country, drive growth, improve on employment opportunities, give sustainable job to your people with this sort of data. It never works. It cannot work in any environment. So yes, is it doable? It is doable, but it's quite a difficult task. Why is it difficult? Railway, unlike road, it's quite a capital intensive. It costs about a minimum of about $7 million to develop double infrastructure, single lane, narrow gauge road in Africa, most African countries. If you compare that to road, it's about $900 to $1 million per every kilometer. The advantage for the railway is the durability. And so while the railway can last for, say, about 50 years, most of the roads we build in Africa, especially in Ghana, after every 6 months, you will need to go back and then undo what has been done. So it is a responsibility of African countries now to see how we address this gap and how we improve on the railway infrastructure. In Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made it one of his priorities. The railways we have, the lines we have in Ghana under the colonial era was in excess of about 1,300 kilometers. That is the railway, but the route is about 944 kilometers. But what has happened over the period, because of the lack of maintenance and the fact that most of these lines are not lines that can pay for themselves, it's been run down. Railway infrastructure, again, should be seen as a social service. Just as we construct road, government must be able to come and construct railway lines and leave it to the private sector to operate. Most often, the agenda for most of the African countries, and I have listened to a number of groups here saying that the PPP is the way to go in addressing this infrastructure. Yes, it may, but not in railway. Because as an investor, my priority is to look at shortest payback period, huge return on my investment. The difficulty we have in Africa is anytime the PPP jumps in to undertake a railway project, the viability gaps become so huge, and governments upon governments are not ready to close that viability gap. I'm yet to see in any African country where a private sector has gone deeply into this railway and is making a return on it. What we can do is government to prioritize the railway. Multilateral agencies, our donors, partners, bilateral agencies have been supporting. But it is a fact that the traditional mechanism of financing is not sustainable. If that is not sustainable, then we should begin to look at other alternatives, just as my colleague, the Minister for Finance, has addressed. How do we bring those alternatives together? And I think that is why my big sister is here, to get all the financing people, to put our head together as an African countries to see how we resolve it.
Minister Amewu again highlights progress on the Trans-ECOWAS line, which is linking Ghana to Lomé and Ivory Coast.
Under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana has done a lot within the industry. We have developed, for instance, what we call the feasibility studies completed for the Trans-ECOWAS line, which runs from Lomé straight to Ivory Coast.
Honorable Amewu also talked about the innovative railway project, which is a joint venture with Burkina Faso, which was unfortunately put on hold due to a recent political change in that country.
One of the novel projects that would have been a surprise to the continent is a project His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo commenced together with his counterpart in Burkina Faso, which is a joint development train. That might be one of the best in Africa. And that runs from Tema through Mpakana, through Volta region, Tamale, Paga, all the way to Burkina Faso. We have done about 100 kilometers of that line. Unfortunately, when there was a change in the military government, when they took over, discussions stalled.
Despite these challenges, Minister Amewu remains optimistic about the future, where you can hop on a train in Ghana and wake up in Lagos.
When will I pick a train from Accra to Lagos?
I'm happy you asked this question while the Minister for Finance sits right here. Train from Ghana to Nigeria is possible. We started train from Ghana to Burkina. So why not Nigeria if Dr. Amin it's here and ready to do the wonders. We can see the improvement in the economy, and as and when we expand and there's a lot of voting power there, I don't think it's going to forget, the Ministry for Railway Development. So that can be done, and it's doable. Thank you.
So, looking at Ethiopia's mega railway projects to the upgrades in South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, and other African countries, there is a renewed focus on rail across the African continent. And it is a clear sign that Africa is on the move to greatness, and railways are the tracks to a brighter future. So, that is all for today's episode. Please let us know your thoughts and suggestions on this in the comment section below. My name is Sheriff Haruna. Have a joyful life and see you in our next video. Macrao.